Hello Montana, I'm Daniel Larson and I'm running for U.S. Senate. Trying to go around and capture what Montana voters truly care about so I can represent them when I get to the United States Senate. The theme of my campaign is STOP, which stands for See the Other Perspective. I want to do this campaign different. I want it to stay small. I want it to be focused on who I am as a person. If you have anything you're concerned about, reach out. Let's have a conversation. This is me and my friend Robert. He's a Trump supporter. Him and I have butt heads a couple times along the way in our interactions together. And I thought I'd give you a little flavor for what it sounds like when two people on the opposite ends of the political spectrum actually sit down and agree.
And you're back live on the air with the Dan and Bob show.
Yeah, so we're going to replace Rush Limbaugh, I guess.
That's an idea.
Yeah. We'll pick it up after. I'll give you the publishing rights. You figure it out.
Better than my idea, I think.
What was your idea?
I was going to become an ordained minister and start the Church of What's Happening Now. You watch the news, go hunting and fishing during the week, think about what you'd seen on the news, pick a topic, find a verse in the Bible, and
just away you go,
and
right?
just wing it.
Yeah.
People throw money at you.
Is that based on your faith, or is that based off of your love of money for easy things?
Well, I kind of am fond of eating and having toilet paper and things like that.
Yeah.
With the least amount of effort to get those things.
That's not a bad deal, right?
At the age I'm at now, I live pretty modest.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a 280 square foot house.
Yeah, so just, for people that listen...
400 square feet if you count the porch.
So Robert and I have both built small houses.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a minimalist lifestyle that gets avoided. And I think it's probably...
I lived the above my means lifestyle up until 10 years ago.
Well, and that's one of those things when I was making,
And... the last few years I've made the least amount of money I'd ever made in my life.
Sure. And
I live better.
Right. And for me, I wanted to check out of the system where I was making, more money than I'd ever made in my life, but I felt like I was a debt slave.
I did that too. I'm driving a almost 40-year-old pickup.
Yeah.
And
there's freedom in that. All my vehicles have over 200,000 miles. Not one of them has a payment.
I don't know anything other than insurance.
Right.
And I have power bill.
Right. Because those are they're expenses that just suck out your productive capacity.
Yeah, a three-bedroom house on 5 acres. For I don't think I had $40,000 into it.
Right, and as a percentage of income, $40,000, even at that wage, is just way different than how we structure our lives with that now.
I was making payments on that property and making payments on my new truck.
Yeah.
Making partial payments on my wonderful little blonde housekeeper's truck because she turned out to be a housekeeper. I never even had to marry her, and she tried to keep my house and everything I owned.
Nice. I knew there was something coming around with that one.
Yeah, my little cowgirl housekeeper. Republican president, you have a Democrat Congress. If you have a Democrat president, you have a Republican Congress.
Let me scare you to death, right? Can I scare you to death for just 5 seconds?
Sure.
All right, so you're a Republican. I think Montana wants to send a Republican to the Senate.
Yeah.
And I think they should, because... here's this real risk, right? If you don't have somebody like me trying to change the Republican Party, we're trying to hold on to 20 plus seats right now in the Senate. In 2 years, it's going to be again.
Yeah.
And then we have to put a candidate in 2024.
Yeah.
Right? Up for presidency.
That'll be Donald Trump Jr.
Oh, God. Can we just not say that? There's no way I'm putting it out there. Marty brought up the same thing. And he's like, let's just listen. Let's just listen. Hey, and I'm like, Donald Trump Jr.?
The Bushes did it.
I know, but I get it. But why would we want to do it? You're just saying, like, screw the system. You know what I mean? Like, why can't you have a populace that's reasonable?
Why can't somebody like one of us that is actually one of the people and has a little common sense be able to run and be elected?
Here's what I'm saying. What if through my Senate run, not saying I want to be president, but the future president is inspired?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm thinking is like somebody right now is living their normal life and then realizing, wait a second.
Yeah.
You know, I listen to people, I talk to people, here are my values. I don't want to be a politician, but yeah. And if the electorate kind of like understands that and we start like when you say throw them all out and we start to really throw them all out, like right now, it took Trump to break the system because he's the only person that's just going to never listen to a no and just go forward. And
that's what's got everybody panicked and riled up and scared is because, hey, there's somebody that we don't have under our thumb.
Right. And so the under the thumb thing, I think, is something to really pay attention to.
These guys are scared because if somebody starts looking into where they made their millions,
right? Because
that's awful hard to do off $174,000 a year to within 2 to 6 years have 14 houses and be worth $40 million.
Right. So
off of $174,000.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
But we have to make sure, like. I think
I'd like to try it though. If you're willing to give me the money, I'll see if I can do my best to become one of those. You know.
So there's a podcast coming out of Helena, and it's an independent podcast, and they do all of the candidates, and it's about an hour with each one of them. And I think if the electorate kind of went through that process, because I went through that process, this is even before I decided to do it, and there was a couple of candidates where it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then you do a little bit of research about what they're talking about. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there's this guy out of Dillon, and I'm sure that I'm probably too controversial for to recommend it. But Joe Dooling.
Yeah.
Joe Dooling is a regular dude. You know what I mean? But what he'll probably do is he'll lose the nomination to Rosendale.
Yeah.
And then we're sending another professional politician out there.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. So, like, why isn't there, like, this swell of people that are like, Joe Dooling, let's do this?
I think they should have to take an IQ test on top of wearing a uniform that shows all their sponsors to be a politician to begin with.
100%. And the same thing when
we got Hank Johnson in the Senate that thinks Guam's going to tip over if they enlarge the naval base there.
Yeah, they're just too tired. Like, let's get Schumer out. Let's get, let's get Pelosi out. Let's get, that's on the Democrat side, but, like, Mitch McConnell needs to go, and Daines needs to go, and, like, all of these 2-3-term senators.
We need to stop foreign aid. If those countries can't make it on their own by now, they're not going to.
Well, foreign aid, I think, is an example of, like, where you have a good intent, but, money laundering. The execution is
money laundering.
Most of the time, ineffective.
Yeah, the mafia's been doing it for years with their casinos and things. It's money laundering.
Come on, man. But there's
countries
that need help.
Yeah.
So what's your solution?
If they don't do anything with the help you gave them, then it's time to cut the ties.
I know, but you can't also be railing against, like, we need to go away from NATO and we don't really have to participate in the UN because.
But why do we have to be the world police?
We don't. I'm just saying, but we have to strengthen the UN and NATO then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we need to get rid of the old school guys out of there too and put some new people in.
But it's this wave that has to come from.
Yeah, you've got to have a balance of power between all the countries. You got to have somebody.
Well, we have to protect sovereignty of other countries, like as a base rule.
Yeah.
Like the new rules of engagement is we're not going to screw with you for your resources.
Yeah.
Right? And then...
Yeah, it's like I'm not going to...
Then maybe everybody could breathe a sigh of relief. But you've got... What happens when you have China taking an offensive posture along with Russia? That's fairly scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We should all be fairly concerned at this point.
You know what's funny is all through the Cold War years, and you caught the tail end of it, I was a little closer
Yeah, more
Or
all the
I
way
had a
through
little
your
more of it.
development. Yeah.
than you because of the age difference, but Russia was our biggest buyer of grain.
Right. Right.
But yet we're mortal enemies with them, and we were taught all through school how
here's
bad
what I
Russia
believe.
was, and we've got to. I remember the drill: sit under your desk.
Sure.
They march us down to the basement in the school, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take my chances outside because
Yeah.
500 of us in this basement under this one single school building.
So this is
You
one of
know?
those things that have been very impactful for me, and if anybody's listening and want to correct me on this, but in Oliver Stone's Alternative History, U.S. History, where he had outlaid that there's evidence that Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin had sat down, a couple of different times.
Oh, they had many
in
times.
World War II. And at one point, Roosevelt was quoted as saying, yeah, it's just a battle between economic systems. We'll see what works, right? And if we wouldn't have, if there was a guy named Wallace, which is interesting, and he was Roosevelt's vice president up until the Democratic Convention of Roosevelt's last term. And they had, the insiders had kind of put Truman at just last minute sort of fandangled Truman as their sort of puppet in it. And so they warmongered after Roosevelt died, and they escalated the tensions between Russia. With imagine if we had have just adopted that Roosevelt philosophy, say Wallace would have stayed in, adopted the Roosevelt philosophy, and was okay, if you think communism is so good, try it. You know what I mean? Why were we so afraid?
Yeah.
This is the problem.
Why did Japan, just out of the blue, decide to attack the U.S.?
Oh, I mean...
somebody pushed them.
Right, and so these
You know?
these power bases have been creating wars. They've been creating poverty.
World War
They've been
I, Kaiser Wilhelm and King George
Sure.
were cousins, and they just couldn't play together anymore,
Mm-hmm.
But they're cousins. It have been royal families, whether you call them president, king, queen,
Sure.
prefect, whatever you want to call.
Right.
But they're all somewhat related.
Right, and so I agree that we should have never had two Clintons run. We should have never had two Bushes run and three Bushes run. This to me says the system is broken. And the founders didn't intend for these things to happen. They intended people to be public servants.
The system was
to come off their farm, be a public servant, and then go back.
The system broke before the Civil War broke out.
Well, the Civil War is a reflection of a political environment that's very similar to the one that we have right now.
That's when states found out that states didn't have state rights.
Well, but you have to say that Abraham Lincoln, he took a legal case that was weak, but a moral case that was strong.
Yeah.
And then he made the hard choice.
Yeah.
Right? And you'd have to say that was a terrible political move.
See, we hadn't moved west yet.
Mm-hmm.
The East Coast, the Northeast, where all the political stuff, the original 13 colonies, were broke.
Yeah.
They were in a depression.
Yeah.
They were broke. The South was making money. The North decided they wanted their fair share.
I don't know
Kind
about that. I don't know if it's that easy to summarize that.
But that's a generalization, but it was basically that.
Sure.
There were just as many slaves in the North as there were in the South.
Well, and they had passed rules that allowed people to get their slaves and return them.
Yeah.
Anyway, human slavery is wrong.
Yeah,
right?
it
But
is.
it's an example of an economic issue.
And it's still going on today.
Yes.
It has never stopped. It's never even slowed down in Africa and the Middle East.
Well, I would like to think that there's less people, don't you think?
No, it really hasn't settled or slowed down much.
Okay, I'm going to have to do more research.
But
slavery, especially sex trafficking, is a huge
sex
thing.
trafficking is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm really watching that, and it's all these foster cares are being nailed
Oh man,
for it,
the
because
foster care system needs
and
a
child
zero
protective
art.
services that go in and take a kid out of a family and nobody
Mm-hmm.
understands why, and then the kid disappears into the foster system, and then the kid just disappears,
Yeah.
and they're not all runaways, not in these numbers.
Why do you have to talk about the worst stuff? Yeah, so
But, I mean,
foster
this
care
is-
is
these are-
really heart-wrenching. Sex trafficking is really heart-wrenching. And this is examples of things where I think that we need to be kind of uniform in our understanding that we
Well,
need real work here.
Yeah, and we need to go back to the basics where you have families again, a family unit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need parents. You
Well,
can't.
but I think you need... Okay, so a family unit is family unit, and generally we define it as a group of people that respect and work together. They respect each other. They work together for a common good.
Yeah.
Right? And we've checked out of some of those values, and we've said that it's okay to not care about people, that you're on your own, all this other stuff. And if we don't start pulling these things back, and that's why I think that my message belongs in the Republican Party, because I'm a deeply spiritual person.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a message and a wisdom that that is the only way for us to truly see each other, like, for humanity.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't have to be religious to see somebody's humanity.
No.
Right? But we are, if you were to, there's theorists out there that say, there's futurists, right?
Yeah.
That say that eventually we will have a computer running the government,
Yeah.
right? And you could say right now, reasonably, you could probably do a better job with a computer logarithm based off of what we know than the
Yeah.
broken state that it's in. But there's something viscerally, like, upsetting to me about, like, taking the human out of
Yeah.
this.
We
you know?
have. We have electronics raising kids. We don't
Mhm.
have the parents, because you got mom in one corner of the house on her phone, you got dad in the other corner of the house on his phone or computer.
But we've structured our modern life where even our home values
Yeah.
are based off of two income families.
Yeah, brother and sister that their only communicate is by texting each other once in a while.
Sure.
That's a big. You can really misinterpret
Oh yeah, text.
a
and-
sentence structure.
Sure.
One word.
Well, there's a value in human interaction, and there's a
Yeah.
value in, but you can't legislate these things.
No.
What you can do is you can talk with more respect towards each other.
Yeah.
And this is what really bothers me about Trumpism, is there's things that are thrown out there that only divide people. This is what bothers me about the Republican Party trying to hang on to everybody from this far right perspective.
but
is they're not trying to inspire anybody. They're trying to, like, create power from fear.
Now the last president wasn't any better either. He created a lot of divide and tensions.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people like you in an environment with, like, a president of Barack Obama, or Bill Clinton, because I remember when Art Bell show was on in the Clinton years. Remember?
Yeah.
And the Patriot movement started going off until, like, Oklahoma City blew up, and then it kind of died back down.
What government documents were in that building?
Okay, I don't want to talk about Oklahoma City conspiracy because I consider it a national tragedy.
It was.
And I think it's an act of domestic terrorism. But I do think
But
that the
wasn't-
words...
That was not done by some moron with a truckload of fertilizer.
McVeigh?
That was a shaped charge,
Ah.
and the back blast took out the stuff across from it. It's collateral damage.
It hurts my brain. Yeah, so...
But see, you've never worked around any of that stuff or been around. There's always a backblast behind an explosion.
Okay, so let's just say that my theory of the universe is one way of looking at it, and your theory involves a government-level conspiracy. Is that what you're saying?
There is.
Well, so...
Go home and watch this video that I showed you
God.
to look at.
Okay, so...
But
But you're stopping me in the middle of this point, right?
No, go ahead and finish your point.
I listen to Art Bell,
Yeah.
and I listen to Rush Limbaugh, and I know the messages that they were speaking, and I don't think it does people good to sit there and worry about a not worry, don't think about it. Don't be critical of your government. Like, I'm not saying that it's ever okay to just be a sheep, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's healthy when you work people up with, like, because there's people out here with fractured minds.
Oh yeah, there are, and that's
Right.
and that's created. They aren't just born. This has been, it's being educated into them, I guess is how you'd say it.
Yeah, but if you sit here and you listen to some of this rhetoric that spins
Yeah.
around, and these conspiracies that spin around, and some of the things that have their origins in some really racist and really negative ideals, I guess what I was saying is what bothers me is we forget that our words have power.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And like, we're shaping people.
Yeah.
And so there is a case that you could say Art Bell is no different than an ISIS cleric that is trying to inspire people in a certain way. And so it's about what you're trying to do with the message.
Yeah,
right?
and that's where I go back to like how the media does things. In the old days, you had guys like, oh God, before Dan Rather even, but you had the newscasters. You'd get on, they'd read an event that happened,
and they would read it like news. There was principles in journalism and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and there still is independent journalism out there.
Yeah.
It's not dead, and it has a huge possibility of coming back in a major way. We just have to be media literate enough to know it when it happens.
But our major news sources are all owned by Congress. They're one guy's wife owns one major outlet, another guy's
we have to understand
sister,
the tiers.
another one's brother.
We have to understand the tiers. We have to understand where money is influencing it. And is MSN more biased than Fox? I don't know. They're probably on the same spectrum. They're so opinionated that they're almost zero for news value, except for a couple of anchors on each station.
The National Enquirer,
but you don't know which one you're getting.
The National Enquirer.
When we were kids, that made sense because
it is more
you had
newsworthy,
the regular channels
than what's on TV now.
Sure, but there also is really great content that's easily disseminated, of people that have journalistic principles, and you can verify.
But
that.
you've got to find one that's principles are bigger than his dollar signs and than the dollar signs that they're showing in his eyes. You got to have somebody that's, well, I'm not going to skew this. This is exactly how I witnessed it versus what one side says this, one side says that. No, what did you see?
Sure.
I want to know what you saw. I don't care what that guy saw, because our conversation right now, if there's somebody else listening to us, they could cut it up either way. They'd have their whole,
and that's why, as much as possible throughout this, I want to make the originals available. Yeah. And so, that's always the piece that you could go back to. You know? But
I'm sure I'll have a black helicopter circling me by morning, but
right. So what I want to say is, because we went to this point where it's like, okay, so when Clinton was in office, when Barack Obama was in office, so let's just look at Barack Obama and gun sales, right? So
best years for a lot of gun manufacturers.
Yeah, so tell me why, because I was maybe in an alternate universe, but tell me why gun sales went through the roof with Barack Obama. He never attempted any Second Amendment violation legislation. He wouldn't have got it through the Senate that he had.
Yeah.
So why was everybody so worked up?
I couldn't honestly tell you.
So what were the voices that were working people up?
I don't know, because I ignore the media. I quit watching television. I look at a whole lot of different varieties of news on the internet, worldwide even.
Did you follow the Tea Party at all? Or?
Oh, yeah.
So would you consider yourself a Tea Party Republican at one point, or?
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just from the tax perspective,
the tax
right?
thing. Yeah.
But they threw a lot of rhetoric out in there too, with very divisive tones.
I'm a life member of the NRA.
Okay.
But I don't know that they're in my best interest anymore.
So what I would like to say is I am absolutely 100% pro Second Amendment rights, but I do not want to be involved with the NRA. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, when I joined,
Yeah.
I actually believed that they were more than just somebody with their hand out.
Right.
You know, because they did at one time. But
Mm-hmm.
now they've gone, I don't know how you'd put it. They're changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, I don't know if they've got the right message.
They're a political organization now, is
Yeah.
what they are. And
Yeah,
so
it
you
used
could
to-
imagine the power that you can wield if you could just give a candidate a grade.
You know, the
and
NRA.
people will vote
The
that.
NRA started
Yeah.
right after the Civil War,
Yeah.
and
As a reasonable body of like-minded individuals.
they got
right?
into where,
A shooting club, right?
yeah, and to where blacks were African Americans, Negroes, whatever you want to say, whatever's politically correct in this day,
Yeah.
alternates, colored.
I was just,
However,
yeah, I'm
you know,
sorry.
I
You
don't
saw
even-
my eyes bug out because I'm like, oh my god, it's been so long since I've
But
heard
I
some of
mean,
this already.
what is correct now?
I think
you know?
it's migrating towards people of color.
Yeah, I mean,
Which, yeah.
you know, that I'm colorblind
Mhm.
when it comes to people. I see a character. I
Mhm.
see their character. I see their personality,
Okay.
the person.
Sure.
And it's never bothered me one
In
way or the other.
one-on-one relationships,
Yeah.
that's what it is. You might generalize from time to time, though, yes?
Oh yeah, but everybody does. Everybody is guilty. There is
stereotyping.
nobody that does not. And if they say they do, they're a liar.
Yeah. I would like to think I'm as open-minded
Yeah.
as anyone, but I
Considering
do...
where we grew up, that's a tough one.
Well, here's my prejudice, right?
You know.
So I'm left-handed. And I
And
think
see-
left-handed people think differently than right-handed people, and I prefer to hang around them.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
right-handed?
that's what you.
You're
that's-
right-handed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You seem like a right-handed person.
Yeah. Actually, I'm ambidextrous.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Now I can't write worth a damn with my left hand, but everything else,
Sure.
because I grew up operating heavy equipment and
Yeah.
both hands.
Well, I'm
and
ambidextrous too, so I throw with my right hand.
I shoot right or
Yeah.
left-handed.
I shoot right-handed. But I
Well,
right with my left hand.
You had to learn to shoot right-handed because it's hard to get a left-handed gun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you adopt to a right-handed world.
Yeah, and when I was a little kid, they forced you.
I know they
would
tried
tie-
to. I
they'd
had
tie your left hand to your
I had
desk.
therapy in school to try to deal with this.
Yeah, they would tie your
Yeah.
hand to your desk if you were left-handed.
Right.
I remember kids in my class, and I'm like,
And that's wrong.
Yeah,
And where's
as a
a
little
left-handed
kid,
activist?
when I'm a
Yeah.
little kid, I'm thinking there's something wrong with
I
this
just
picture.
suffered through it and didn't even think about it. What does it mean to be a Democrat or Republican anymore? Who knows? I do know what it means to be establishment or anti-establishment, and definitely I'm anti-establishment. So keep paying attention, keep listening. We'll see if we can do this together. I'm Daniel Larson. Thanks for listening.